Hello, Rotary Club of Seattle. Am I on? Ah, hello, Rotary Club of Seattle members and guests. So, as is our custom, we're going to have table talks for the next 5 to 10 minutes before the meeting starts. And today's topic, which you should see on the screen, is when is the last time you tried something new that you were initially skeptical about? And then we're glad that you did. Something new you were initially skeptical about. You may have been talked into it, who knows? And then you were glad you did it. So we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Thanks.
Don't stand. I'll get you up in a minute. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Seattle, where we are working to build healthy communities. I'm Jan Levy. I'm still your president. We got about a month and a half to go. As we begin today's program, would you please take a moment to reflect on our land acknowledgement, which is up on the screen? Okay, and now you can all stand as we welcome Jose Neges and Burr Stewart, who are going to be leading our music today. And Sue Erber, who I think just got here. And Don is going to be with us. Anybody else up there I miss? Ben? And Josh. Okay, thank you all.
Well, in the spirit of Jan's leadership in stewarding globally, as Rotarians we should, please join us in America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, forever width of green, for purple mountains majesties above the mountain plain. America, what shed its grace on me, and crown like its crown from sea to shining sea.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you to the entire group. I'm not going to name you all again. But I should point out that Jose just got his book published. And it's a practical guide to singing, and it's in both English and Spanish, and it's for kids. So see Jose if you want to learn more about it. I also want to thank Stephanie Shushan, Emily Yim, and Marcia Mutisi for serving as our greeters today, Paul Casey for our meeting reporting, and David Bobanek for filling in as Sergeant at Arms. Thank you. I don't know if we have any visitors today. Mary says no, so no visiting Rotarians or guests. But if you are a visiting Rotarian or guest and we missed you, please wave or something. Okay. So today we're continuing our focus on the environment as another cornerstone of the healthy community model by taking a look at organizations, entrepreneurs, and investors willing to take risks in support of climate solutions, hence our question earlier today. Innovation has a funny way of becoming obvious only after it succeeds. When we look back, we say things like, boy, the internet changed everything, or smartphones took over the world. And then we usually follow those thoughts with a comment like, I should have invested in that. Locally, there was probably someone who looked at a little software company moving to the Northwest and thought, Microsoft? Interesting hobby. Or maybe they looked at this bookseller operating out of a garage and they thought, really, how can this ever be profitable? Innovation has a way of humbling all of us. Any breakthrough starts with uncertainty, unanswered questions, and a room full of people wondering whether the idea will ever amount to anything. And that's where the risk takers enter the story. In the world of entrepreneurship and angel investing, people often place bets not on a finished product, but on a possibility that someday could change the world. Some ideas fail, some evolve into something completely different, and every once in a while, one will change an industry. Today, change sits increasingly at the intersection between challenge and opportunity, especially when it comes to climate change. It's no longer a conversation just about the environment. It's also a conversation about innovation, investment, economic development, and the future of our communities. Our speaker today is helping bring big ideas, innovators, and opportunities together. Through VertueLab and now Opaline Climate Capital, Allison Arnold is helping to accelerate those entrepreneurs who are developing solutions in clean energy, climate resilience, water innovation, and other technologies that could shape both our economy and our environment. Her bio is on your tables. Please join me in welcoming Allison Arnold, Managing Partner at Opaline Climate Capital.
Bonjour à tous. Je vous remercie pour cette présentation. Je suis honorée d'avoir été invitée à m'adresser à vous aujourd'hui. And one thing that is missing from my bio is that I was a Rotary exchange student to Belgique many years ago. It was a very formative experience that took me from Oregon to Belgium for a year of cultural and academic immersion. And my French has certainly atrophied since then, but my esteem for Rotary has only increased. And why is that? It's because this organization simultaneously has achieved incredible global impact while also making a difference locally through your effective model of community service. I understand, as Jan has teed this up so nicely, that your programming this year has focused on exploring the elements of a healthy community. And I've been invited to offer my perspective on building a healthy community by protecting and stewarding our natural environment. Living in a world where people and nature can thrive together has been a personal and professional preoccupation, and one that is more relevant than ever for humanity and for the other earthly beings with which we share this planet. I serve as managing partner of Opaline Climate Capital, an impact-oriented venture capital fund that is launched by VertueLab. It's a Pacific Northwest nonprofit that has been supporting early-stage climate tech companies since 2007. There are multiple aspects to the organization. VertueLab is an ecosystem builder working with private and public actors to accelerate regional solutions to climate change. They offer startup programs, educating entrepreneurs and helping them access the resources needed to succeed. And increasingly, VertueLab is a community catalyst, partnering with underserved communities to catalyze a just transition to a low-carbon economy. The Opaline Climate Capital Fund is the second venture fund that VertueLab has launched, and it will invest in Washington State's most promising early stage climate tech companies to deliver climate, social, and economic impact alongside return on investment. I probably don't need to tell you much about how a changing climate is impacting our beautiful state, because no doubt you have experienced the impacts firsthand. We have made enormous progress, actually, on electrifying our economy and generating clean and affordable renewable energy during the last 30 years. But the hard truth remains that our supply chains are long, they are fragile, and remain dependent on oil and gas. Over the past 5 years, global emissions have increased another 5%. The problem often feels enormous and bleak, but the important thing to remember is that we have a choice in shaping the future we want to have for ourselves and for future generations. Worst case scenarios that forecast warming of more 4 degrees Celsius by the end of this century are now considered unlikely because of the investment that we have already made in renewable energy. According to the IEA, last year, global investment in clean energy exceeded $2 billion spent on fossil fuels, solar photovoltaics. If climate policies are strengthened and technological advances continue to exceed expectations, future emissions could be lower than envisioned. But that will depend on us. So I'd like you to envision for a moment what kind of future we could instead have 25 years from now, one where emissions are not increasing. And this is within the lifetimes of many of us in this room and your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews. So this is a tangible time frame. Imagine in 25 years that Washington forests are still standing strong. And the next generation, represented here by my son, is exploring their wonders. Imagine that our water is still clean and plentiful. Imagine that our food system is resilient, abundant, and healthy. This is actually one of the portfolio companies from our last fund, Canopy, automated greenhouse based out of Oregon. Imagine that our energy is renewable and that family bills are lower. Imagine that our cars, ferries, airplanes, and ships use sustainable fuels. And again, this is a climate impact fund portfolio company that is Dexter Turner, also from Oregon, with his OpConnect charging technology. Imagine that local industries are thriving and non-polluting. Does anybody recognize this facility in Moses Lake, Washington? That is Group 14's facility from which they intend to start manufacturing battery active materials later this year. So how do we secure that future for Washington? I want to ask you. This is the audience participation part of this program. Any ideas? Yes, Jose.
About 10 years ago, I wanted to understand molecular hydrogen, so I got certified in molecular hydrogen. And I know, and I'm highly invested in some of the companies that are out on the East Coast, like Fuel Cell and Plug. But I realized that, it just seems to not be such a talked about molecule, as it's very inert. And it's also an opportunity to get it to produce energy for us in a,
Mhm.
and I wanted to ask what your opinion on that was. And if it's
Absolutely.
going to be part of our mix in the future.
Yeah, great question, and I'm happy to lean into that one more in Q&A. That is a great question, and in fact, our state is what's considered a hydrogen hub. Unfortunately, the funding for that was coming from the federal government, and so the opportunity there has dimmed for that particular technology. But yes, hydrogen is seen as an important fossil replacement. However, the infrastructure is not yet in place to support its distribution, let alone its generation. And so that will be a big lift, but that is the type of investment that we're talking. And I love how Jose has just skipped right ahead to the innovation part of the answers. Other than innovation, are there ways that we can support that brighter future? Okay, get out of your cars. There's a behavioral change. There are other ways to get around other than cars, public transportation, walking, etc. Another idea is passing environmental sustainable policies, electing environmental champions. We've done a good job of that here in our state. We have some of the leading environmental and climate policies in the world here in Washington. They include the Clean Energy Transformation Act. They include the Climate Commitment Act, Renewable Fuel Standard, and others. We can protect natural habitat. That is critical for biodiversity on land and at sea. As Jan said, we can make individual choices like changing the way we travel, adopting clean tech into our lives. And I've actually, in my career, been privileged to experiment with all of these things. I used to work for the World Wildlife Fund in New Zealand and California, setting up marine protected areas. I worked in Olympia to pass some solar policies to enable greater expansion of the rooftop solar industry in our state. I have adopted some of these technologies as well into my life. But the point I really want to emphasize during this talk is that all of that, as important as it is not sufficient. Only half of the technologies that we will need to get to net zero by 2050 exist today. So innovation is really critical, and investing in the innovators who are building the most promising climate tech companies in Washington will certainly need to be on the agenda. And who are these people anyways? Well, here's a snapshot. They are in all corners of the state. I want to highlight here a few. I mentioned already Group 14, who's a leading manufacturer of silicon battery materials, which is improving battery performance for electric vehicles, consumer electronics, and other applications. There's Electric Era there in the bottom corner. Has anybody toured Electric Era's facility in Sodo? Well, if not, I would encourage you to take a field trip. Quincy Edmund Lee is the CEO, and they have a team of 40 people there manufacturing battery-backed, grid-optimized EV charging stations for retailers. You may have used their product unwittingly at Costco, which is one of their partners. They have it right next to the gas station. You can pick the EV alternative. There's Tidal Vision, led by Craig Casbert, which is a Bellingham-based manufacturer that creates sustainable chitosan-based biomolecular solutions for water treatment, agricultural, and material science. They do that by upcycling seafood waste into high-performance products. And then there's Ocean Build, led by Alexa Bednarz. Alexa identified the need for cooler roofs for low-income houses while working for the Gates Foundation in India. And she is using technology developed at Washington State University to create structural and durable bamboo panels to replace metal and asbestos cement roofs. And then there's Carbon Robotics, which is Paul Mikesell's company. It's Seattle-based, and it develops AI-powered agricultural robotics with solutions like the laser weeder for automated weed control. Don't you wish you had one of those at home? So these are the folks who have overcome incredible odds to get as far as they are. And support for this innovation ecosystem is absolutely critical. Where is this happening? Well, one place is the relatively new, within the last 18 months, Seattle Climate Innovation Hub right in the heart of downtown. And if you have not been there and would like to take a tour, please approach me. I would be delighted to show you around. This is a collaboration between VertueLab, the University of Washington, and the City of Seattle, and an entity called 90, which specializes in co-working spaces. And this is actually the sister property of the San Francisco 90, where climate innovators are also gathering to address this generational challenge. So climate tech startups are seeding a better future for Washington, and we're lucky. We are in a state that has all the ingredients except for one to help visionary founders scale their innovations to repair the climate and grow our economy. We have a large and vibrant economy. We're actually amongst the 3 top states for per capita GDP. We have a diversified manufacturing and industry base. We have state government support. I mentioned some of the policies that are supporting this effort. We have top research institutions like the University of Washington, Washington State University, Pacific Northwest National Lab, and more. And I asked Quincy, who you saw earlier from Electric Era, what it was that makes this a great place to build a company. And he said, first and foremost, it's the talent. There is just an incredible amount of technical and business talent in this town. And so that is why he has built Electric Era here. There are also strong environmental and entrepreneur support organizations. But it's this last point, investment capital for Washington climate tech innovations, which is holding us up. Climate tech founders really struggle to find venture capital in Washington. To give you a sense, Seattle has about 6% of the venture capital deployed in the country. California has around 50%. And many companies have to leave our state, particularly climate tech companies, to find the risk capital needed to grow their ventures. Federal funding has largely evaporated. Washington state funding exists, but it tends to cover downstream deployment of these technologies. There are awesome large companies that have started here that are very innovative that Jan referenced in her introduction. They now, rather than focusing on decarbonizing their businesses, are more focused on chasing the AI build out, which can make this climate problem worse. There are other venture capital funds in Seattle and elsewhere in Washington, but they tend to focus on other sectors. And there are awesome groups like the Alliance of Angels, the Seattle Angel Conference, E8 Angels, of which I'm a member, who are playing an important role in getting these companies on their journey, but they can only take the companies so far. In addition, you may have learned there is now funding for a green bank for the state of Washington. It's just been capitalized with $25 million from the Climate Commitment Act. Again, an important source of capital, but further downstream for deployment. What we need is the support for these early stage innovative chapters in a company. So I'm proposing a new solution. This is called climate capital. What is climate capital? Well, given the complexity of the problem, we see a path through a blended capital solution that will create this bridge. It's a combination of venture capital, catalytic capital, which is the concessionary capital that comes from foundations and philanthropists, individuals through their donor advice funds, and then public capital. And in fact, the state of Washington, through the Department of Commerce, has pledged up to $9 million in a one-to-one match for the Opaline Climate Capital private funds that are raised. The Opaline Fund will invest across diverse local industries, including energy, transportation, agriculture, construction, heavy industry, and consumer. The fund has a head for return on investment and a heart for impact. We are looking to invest for financial returns in startups with skilled and passionate founders, demonstrated market need, growing market segments, competitively differentiated products, and meaningful customer traction, but also that will bring scalable impact for greenhouse gas reduction, climate change adaptation, healthy and resilient communities, generational wealth creation and job creation, and inclusive of overlooked entrepreneurs. And this is our moment. This is the decisive decade for climate. And this fund is designed to leverage our strengths and unlock those meaningful outcomes. This is the type of messaging that we are directing at those who are seeking to join us on the journey, that this fund will have targeted impact from Washington-based solutions in terms of job creation and improved health, reduced emissions. It will expand the community that is helping Washington climate tech entrepreneurs commercialize their innovations. It will release our matching tax dollars to grow the climate tech ecosystem right here in our own backyard. And it will leverage our local strengths and resources during a time of federal retrenchment. It's now up to us to create our own future. So I want to thank you for your time today and your attention. Washington is poised to make a difference in assuring a thriving, equitable, and sustainable planet for generations to come. And now I welcome your questions. Jose started us off with a good one.
Yeah. Do you want to pick up where, Jose, would you like to refresh your question?
Well, yeah. So, hydrogen, H2, and what are the possibilities? I know, and just doing some more, obviously looking at all the press releases that come out. I know Spokane in that area was looking to have a plant a little bit on hydrogen as well, Wenatchee.
Yeah.
And I don't know with the federal funding being so just obviously another direction. With the new administration, do you see that getting picked up, and really trying to make it part of our grid here in the state? Because I know that's a huge problem and why we're leaning toward nuclear a little bit for the grid here in the state.
Yeah, it's a great question, Jose. My understanding is that the state's ambitions for hydrogen and the nation's ambitions for hydrogen are on pause. The last administration did see an opportunity there as an alternative fuel. And that could change again as our politics change. What is really challenging working in this field is that the way that we produce our energy should not be politically polarizing. It is frustrating to folks who work in this domain that the technologies of favor du jour seem to vacillate with who's in power. But what we are seeing is that certain technologies, solar being one of them, is surmounting those political obstacles. Solar, and it comes down to economics. So solar is the most affordable way to build out capacity. And that's why you're hearing some of the numbers I stated earlier about $450 billion invested in utility scale solar last year alone, because it is now the cheapest way and the fastest to get the power delivered that's needed. It is still intermittent power, so battery long-term storage is still needed, and investment in that technology is ongoing including during this current administration. And so much of the agenda is also now driven by the hyperscalers and meeting the energy needs of this new technology frontier. So, yeah, there are multiple drivers in terms of which technologies are receiving support, but politics and economics are certainly two of them.
Hi, Allison. First, it's very nice to have some positive picture from your earlier slides that things are moving slightly in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Second, what I wanted to ask about is the impact of the current administration on the whole industry, particularly in light of what we have seen in wind and the cancellation of some of those projects, and the whole mindset that is so negative against any of that.
Yeah.
And does it impact also equally so investors?
Yeah. So investors like certainty. You've probably heard that one before. And the actions of the current administration have not bolstered confidence. However, in spite of all that, what's important is that we do not abandon innovation. So money has been cut across the board for science, not just in climate, but also in health, as you know. And so I think it is time for us to look at what we can do independent of the government. Now, the Opaline story is a bit of a shining beacon of hope, because we have state money coming into this fund. That's a exemplary, in my view, opportunity for government to support. They're actually not making the investment decisions themselves, but they want to support the growth of climate tech. It's an economic development opportunity in the eyes of the Department of Commerce and of many of us in the state. So while deployment is facing these headwinds of these mature technologies like wind, we still need to keep innovating. People are still tinkering in their garages, regardless of what is going on at the government level. And so to get the innovations of these brilliant people onto the stage and start commercializing them, we don't need big dollars to do that. Angels are one of the first ports of call for innovators. And then beyond that, where we're seeing the gap is funding for the seed and Series A stages, where there are not locally resident venture capital funds who can lead those rounds and help entrepreneurs commercialize their technology. That is when they have to go to the Bay Area, to Boston, to New York, or elsewhere to try and find those investors.
Hi, Allison, and as an ex-Oregonian, welcome.
Thank you.
I do a lot in the valuation arena with renewables, power plants, and have worked around the country doing reports for siting and all that. And the two issues that are strangling extension of solar, for example, is congestion on the grid. And what's holding congestion on the grid? It's environmental restrictions, EIS statements, the B2H line in Oregon. It's taken 20 years, and they haven't broken ground. And much of that was EIS and then another EIS. So is there anything your organization can do to help, cut the knees out from some of the environmental wackos that are out there? They're holding this up, as well as NIMBYism, because the wind project in eastern Washington is going to be held up probably because of concerns about hawk nests, and then you've got people who just don't like what they look like. So that's kind of what's out there. Have you been able to help there? Thanks. Sure.
Really great question. So you're absolutely right. We have, and the Seattle Times has covered this, have found it very difficult to actually deploy large-scale projects in this state and in neighboring states. And it's unclear really where the bottlenecks are. And this is not particularly an area that VertueLab focuses on. We are upstream in the innovation chapter of a company. But I was just talking to a lobbyist last night over dinner who works in this very domain and who is visiting with commissioners at the local level and in Olympia and so forth to try and cut through the red tape that seems to be preventing some of these larger scale projects from moving forward. And this is not new. It predated the AI revolution. There is an initiative that is just being launched in Washington by an organization called Climate Solutions called Climate Surge, which does seek to figure out where our deployment obstacles are for some of these meaningful larger scale projects. So I'll look forward to following their work.
Okay, we have time for one more question back here, Ben.
Real quick, the slide before, do you have a private equity fund that's being built right now and a target of that?
Yes, so we are raising money right now for the Opaline Climate Capital Venture Fund. And it is a partnership with the state in that they will be a limited partner contributing up to $9 million of public capital.
I've had the privilege the last 6 years of sitting on Rotary International's investment committee, and there's been more and more allocation to private equity of the about $2 billion that Rotary has that we manage in the annual fund and the funds for the endowment and stuff. They're constantly getting pitched on, but also looking for investment opportunities in private equity funds at that level.
Okay, well, we should follow up after this conversation. Wonderful. Thank you. I'm delighted to hear that.
And I apologize. I know several others had questions. Are you able to stay afterward for
Absolutely.
a few minutes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. President Jan, over to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Je veux remercier. Thank you, Jan. I picked up yours too. I'm so sorry.
You cannot have my notes or I cannot get on with it.
Okay.
So
Wait, should I give this back to David or?
I don't
You can just
touch that.
You can just leave it there.
So thank you, Allison. Merci. As a thank you for being with us today, we have made a gift of 600 meals of healthy servings of produce in your name through Harvest Against Hunger, provided by our Seattle Rotary Service Foundation. So thank you for that. And you'll get that in a minute. My notes got you guys all messed up here, so you're going to have to bear with me. At this time, we would like to welcome Sue Nixon, our past president, to introduce new member Stephanie Shushan, and that will be followed by Gina Hall, who will introduce new member Erica Thrash Saul.
Thank you, Jan. Stephanie is a kaleidoscope of vibrant colors and patterns. She is creative and passionate with a keen sensibility for systems design. Getting to know her is a delightful discovery. As a business student at the University of Washington, her first experience with Rotary was with our Business Mentor program. She loved the blend of community service and personal growth. Upon graduation, she continued with the program as a professional advisor to local businesses and students for 7 years. Her professional career began at UW Medicine, where she spent 10 years primarily in the psychiatry department and critical care. She found her strength in improving existing programs and designing and implementing new programs, such as a structured code blue response at UW Medical Center and the development of Ebola treatment unit. You can imagine how valuable this experience was when faced with the need for an overnight response to the coronavirus. Stephanie leveraged her experience implementing telepsychiatry to support providers and individuals across Washington state. After completing her graduate studies at UW in healthcare administration, Stephanie had a unique opportunity presented to her. I didn't let her tell this story at the table when it said, do something that scared you. Like, what was that? I'm like, you can't steal the one I'm doing. A project in South Africa that needed urgent and immediate support aligned perfectly with her skill set and passion for service and her interest in returning to South Africa. So courageously, Stephanie quit her job and said yes to this adventure. She and the project flourished. Upon returning to the state, her path unfolded serendipitously. She has spent the last 9 years implementing new programs in Medicaid in Washington and California. Her current focus is on the Medicaid community in California, applying her healthcare program management experience to the complex intersection of healthcare and housing to improve systems for people in need of support. During a recent break in her contract, Stephanie reconnected with colleagues and Rotarian friends, and to our benefit, decided to join Rotary. You can see how beautifully her experience across psychiatry, critical care, and global health aligns, not only with her career, but with our own SRSF projects. And late breaking news, she has agreed to be on our SRSF board in the coming year. So, Stephanie's commitment to service is near and dear to my heart, quite literally. She lives near Bloodworks Northwest Seattle Donor Center and regularly donates platelets, a time-sensitive and vital donation that she embraces because she has personally seen its impact. An only child at 14, Stephanie lost her mom to breast cancer. Her mom was a pioneering occupational therapist who created a training program for therapy assistants. To this day, Stephanie and her father steward a scholarship tied to her mother's work they began 30 years ago. Stephanie grew up in San Diego, where her father managed the stadium where the Chargers and the Padres played. Along with sports, she had incredible experiences, like early concerts with Ray Charles and the Beach Boys. These sparked her lasting love for music and for performance. Over the years, Stephanie has played piano and flute. She's studied photography and pursued her passion for dance, traversing hip hop, house, blues, hustle, traditional and modern African dance. I left our time together thinking I need to move my body more. Stephanie brings her tapestry of curiosity and compassion, and I have no doubt she will leave a lasting impact on our club and our community. So please join me in welcoming our newest member, Stephanie Shushan.
Well, it is my honor and my pleasure to introduce you to Erica Thrash Saul to Seattle Rotary 4. And I'll just start by saying, as I have been getting to know Erica better, completely aligns with what Jan was talking about earlier today about a risk taker and turning challenges into opportunity. Erica is sponsored by our former board president, Neil McReynolds. Thank you, Neil. The more I've learned about Erica, the more I have been struck by the way she leads. With both heart and purpose, Erica is the CEO of Horizon House, one of Seattle's truly special nonprofit senior living communities. Known for its resident-led spirit, intellectual energy, and strong sense of connection. Since coming to Seattle in 2023, Erica has been leading Horizon House through an exciting season of growth, including the West Tower expansion, while also honoring culture and community that make Horizon House remarkable. Erica brings more than 25 years of experience working at the intersection of community service, health, and aging. She's a proud native of Flint, Michigan, and I have learned through getting to know Erica how her early years in Flint grounded her leadership and how it aligns her life with Flint. Flint's resilience, honesty, and deep sense of community. Erica earned her degree in history from the University of South Carolina and her MBA from Lawrence Technological University. Before coming to Seattle, she led McFarland Villages in Flint, where she focused on expanding opportunity, care, and dignity for older adults. And on a more personal note, I love that Erica says she gets both her work ethic and her devotion to family from her father, who showed up for everything and clearly made a lasting impression on her life. She and her husband, Isa, have 3 children, a daughter serving in the Peace Corps, a son finishing college as a varsity swimmer, and her youngest daughter who loves sewing, lacrosse, and dreams of becoming a fashion designer. And when Erica has a little free time herself, she enjoys discovering new coffee shops around Seattle. So I think she moved to the right city, right, y'all? She also shared at our table, she stole my thunder, but anyhow, she enjoys easy day hikes. So again, she moved to the right city. Erica's work has been recognized nationally, including with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Award for Health Equity from Leading Edge. But what stands out most to me is not just what she's done. It's the way she's done it. She brings vision, humility, and genuine care for people. Erica understands that strong communities are built on trust, dignity, and a willingness to serve others. And that's part of why she feels Rotary's a natural fit, where service above self, fellowship, and making meaningful differences in the community are such an important part of who we are as Rotarians. As Erica puts roots down in Seattle and becomes more connected to the civic life of this city, it feels especially meaningful to welcome her into a Rotary community that cares so deeply about service, leadership, diversity, and connection. Erica brings not only an impressive record of leadership, but she also brings warmth, wisdom, and a desire to contribute and learn along others. So please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Erica Thrash Saul.
Thank you to Sue and Gina. And welcome to Stephanie and Erica. At the end of our meeting, if you wouldn't mind, please stand at the back by the door so that you can greet people as they leave. Thanks also again to REB Enterprises and Carl Benke for their meeting support this year. Thanks to Bloodworks Northwest and to the Westland Morris Group with Baird Private Wealth Management for their sponsorship support. There's room for sponsors. Come and see us. David, do you have any
We
announcements?
do. Yes, we do, Jan. It's going to be really quick, so apologize. I've got quite a few to get through. Thursday, May 21st, tomorrow evening, is the Pinkham and Skeel SRSF Major Donors Reception. It's going to be from 5 to 8. Registration link has already been sent out to all of us members donating 1,000 or more to SRSF this year. It's not too late to get an invitation, everybody. If you know what I mean. The campaign's not officially finished. Please contact Mary if you're having trouble getting registered or want to learn more about the event or would like to get invited. Wednesday, May 27th, we've got a Zoom-only meeting with retired philanthropy director Dave Spicer. It's going to be the final Zoom meeting of the Rotary year, and the day is going to be a double header for us, as in the evening, next slide, we're invited to FEDVA's ethnic dinner at Harissa Mediterranean Cuisine. Please RSVP directly with FEDVA if you would like to attend. There is still room, so please do. Thank you, FEDVA. Wednesday, June 3rd, lunch meeting at the WAC right here with Cuervo Vaccine CEO George Simeon. It's going to be wrapping up, June is wrapping up our Rotary year with our Healthy Communities themed month. So join us right back here June 3rd. Thursday, June 11th is the President's Party, where we get to honor. Do we get to roast or just honor? We get to honor. Jen. So sending the Rotary year off in style at the annual President's Party, which is going to be back at Queen City Yacht Club. Again, this year, our own Pete Delaunay and I are going to be tending bar. So I'm going to follow Pete's lead in terms of how heavy the pours will be. We're also going to offer outgoing club president Jan and our outgoing SRSF president, Lillian Sherman. So hopefully you can join us at that. Should be a really fun event. Always is. Lots of entertainment.
Jose promised salsa lessons.
Did you say salsa lessons? All right, everybody, sign up with Jose immediately after today's lunch. Wednesday, June 17th, the final lunch meeting of the year is going to be, again, back here at the WAC. It's going to be Lou Rochelle Brim Atkins is going to be speaking. She's a social and community activist. We were talking about having her as the final speaker. Jan and I are both very excited. Hope to see you all here. It should be a great event. And finally, Rob Dunlap, our host from last week's evening event, is going to tell us a little bit about Cascade PBS Ideas Fest.
Right. Thank you very much. And thanks to everybody who joined us last Wednesday at Cascade PBS. Really appreciated having everybody there. At that event, we shared information about the Ideas Festival, which is June 6th in Fremont. This is a full day of speakers coming in from around the region and nationally to join us for a bunch of social and civic conversation on issues of great importance. So the thing we shared with everybody last Wednesday is that we're offering all Rotarians a 20% discount on tickets. So if you're interested in joining us, we've got Nancy Pelosi coming. We've got Adam Schiff coming. Ibram X. Kendi is to be there. Tanya Mosley will be there. Monica Lewinsky will be there. So a lot of very interesting speakers to join us for the day. So we hope you can join us. Rotary 20 is your discount code. So if you are interested in joining us and buying tickets, type in Rotary 20 and you'll get a 20% discount on tickets. So thanks again.
Thanks, Rob. Over to you, Jan. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Thank you, David and Rob. You know, I have to give a shout out here before I close out to Eric Christensen. Wave higher. Nobody saw that. Eric has led our sustainability and environmental efforts at this club for a very long time. And when we were designing our program year and we came to the month of the environment, it was Eric who proposed all of our speakers for this month. So thank you. You know, as I was thinking about today's program, I realized something about myself that I'm a little embarrassed to admit. I am not an early adopter. I still have a landline. I still read a print newspaper. You are not likely to ever see me standing in line at midnight waiting for the newest device. I've also never been especially drawn to risky investments or to innovation simply for the sake of it. Different isn't automatically better. It's just different. Today's conversation reminded me that the best innovation isn't change just for its own sake. It's problem solving. Jeff Bezos once said, if you double the number of experiments you do per year, you're going to double your inventiveness. In other words, progress doesn't come from certainty. It comes from trying things that may or may not work. There are plenty of reasons to be cautious, but innovation at its core is the willingness to take the first risk. As Rotarians, we've always invested in things that don't come with guarantees, people and projects where the return is measured not just in outcomes, but in impact over time. Think about our work in polio eradication. We invest where we believe the future can be better, even when we can't fully calculate the return. T.S. Eliot wrote, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far they can go. That's the spirit we heard about today. And it's the same spirit Rotary has always lived by, investing in people and ideas today because we believe the future is still something we can help shape. Thank you all for joining us. Next week, I hope to see you on Zoom when we hear from Dave Spicer, who has chaired the District 50/30 Environmental Sustainability Committee. Erica and Stephanie, excuse me. Please remember to stand by the door and greet people on the way out. Thank you all. We are adjourned.